Well, as I've previously shared, in my view, the latest weapon in the hypersexualized and gender culture wars to be used against children is drag queens. According to Wikipedia, a drag queen is a person, usually male, who uses drag clothing and makeup to imitate and often exaggerate female gender signifiers and gender roles for entertainment purposes. In modern times, drag queens are associated with gay men and gay culture, but people of other genders and sexual identities also perform as drag queens. Drag queens frequently include lip syncing, live singing, and dancing. They occur at events like gay pride parades, carnivals, and drag pageants, and in venues such as cabarets and nightclubs. Well, that's according to Wikipedia. Let's be clear, drag queens are an adult expression of LGBT communities. Even they admit that. Strip dancing, sexuality, cross-dressing, sexualized content, adult entertainment. If it's targeted at adults, so be it. But now it's being deliberately targeted at children. Ironically, you never hear much about drag queens reading books at old folks' homes or women's refuges. No, just to very young children in libraries. Now, if I was saying all the things I've just talked about and I said them in Australia, I could be dragged off to the Human Rights Commission or their equivalent. Maybe I still will be here in New Zealand, so be it. I don't care. We need to speak the truth. In early 2020, two drag queens sued Lyle Shelton, who used to be with the Australian Christian Lobby and is now head of the Family First political party in Australia. It's a political party over there. They sued him, the drag queens sued him for vilification. His alleged crime was to write a blog that highlighted that drag queens were promoting genderfluid ideology to children, and he said that they were dangerous role models after they appeared at a drag queen storytime event for children at a Brisbane City Council library. The drag queens made a complaint to the Queensland Human Rights Commission, alleging that his post was vilification because it incited hatred, severe ridicule, and serious contempt towards them. And finally, there's been a decision. Let's talk to Lyle about the outcome. Lyle, it's good to have you back on McBLOG. We're all wanting to know, what was the outcome of the case?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Look, it's been an amazing outcome. The charges against me have been dismissed. These were vilification or hate speech charges brought by two drag queens about 3.5 years ago. So it's been a long battle, but the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal, the lawyer, the member, as he's called, who's like a judge, has dismissed the charges after taking 9 months to write his decision.
And so it's gone for, what, 3 years?
It's been over 3 years since they launched the legal action against me. So it starts with a complaint in the Queensland Human Rights Commission. You have to go to compulsory conciliation, where they made demands of me to, apologise to them and take down my blogs. And I politely said, no, I'm not going to do that. Then they escalated it to the tribunal. And then eventually it went to a 3-day trial last November. The case has cost, my crowdfunding donors have contributed, more than $208,000. That's from 1,300 people, mums and dads, chipping in little bits here and there, which I really appreciate. And then on top of that, my lawyers gave, I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars worth of pro bono work, including my King's Counsel, Tony Morris, who gave his time for 3 days at the trial pro bono. So I'm incredibly grateful for the support I've had.
Okay, and you had support from the Human Rights Law Alliance, which of course is John Stenhoff, who spoke at our forum recently. So, that shows the value of an organisation like that, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Look, I feel so privileged to have been represented by the A-team. These were top professionals. As I say, Tony Morris, KC, was engaged by the Human Rights Law Alliance to represent me at the trial. The work that John Steenhoff and his team of solicitors did was top class, and I just felt in really good hands the whole way through. And I know I had the privilege of being at your conference back in June, and to see you guys launching something similar in New Zealand. This is much needed. John Steenhoff and his team have a full caseload. I'm just one of many people that they're defending. And I know you're going to be run off your feet there in New Zealand because of the times we live
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, well, it's not us launching it, but there is an organisation happening, so it's very, very exciting, and we certainly need it.
Mm.
Lyle, what do you think swung the case? Because I tend to think of anything that comes out of human rights tribunals, those types of things, as tending to go against social conservatives. So, but you won.
Yeah.
So, what do you think swung it?
Yeah, look, I, obviously, as someone of faith, I'm thankful. I think God intervenes in the affairs of
Mm,
people like me. So I give glory to Him, and that may not be something everyone understands. But
mm,
then He, by God's grace, we had an amazing legal team. So I think having good lawyers making the case really powerfully that I hadn't caused vilification, that what I had done was legitimate public discussion in the
mm,
public interest. There are exemptions under these very, very flawed laws. They are flawed. They're very subjective. They're very problematic. But I think making the case that discussing whether it's appropriate for drag queens who present with a sexualized persona, who preach gender fluid
mm,
ideology to little children, which we know
mm,
is harmful. It puts them on a pathway towards puberty blockers, ultimate castration. I mean, it's pretty
mm,
extreme stuff
mm.
where this leads to. So to be able to talk about that in the public square, that being a public interest issue, I think that is in large matter what swung it. Look, it's a very technical judgment. There are other factors as well, but I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a form of hate speech law. I mean, how do you even define vilification, and who judges whether it's harmful? Is it just based on a snowflake
Exactly.
response, or is it based on
Yep.
whether it's true?
Well, that's exactly right, and therein lies the problem. That's why it took member Jeremy Gordon of QCAT, the Queensland Civil Administrative Tribunal, 9 months after the
Yeah.
trial, because he says in his judgment that these laws are vague.
Mm,
He has to work
mm,
out what does incitement to vilification or hatred mean, and then who is the audience that's incited. And a big part of his wrangling in his judgment was over the contentions of the complainants that
mm,
people who made third-party comments on my Facebook page, and I don't want to defend people who
mm,
call drag queens, all sorts
mm,
of pernicious names like
mm,
pedophiles and stuff like
mm,
that. I don't obviously support that. I can't control everything that's on my Facebook page that idiots go and write, but this all formed part of the complaint against me, and so he had
wow.
to wade through all that and work out, well, who is the audience? What's incitement? And in the end, he said, well, me publishing and talking about these things, which are in the public interest, didn't amount to incitement. As I say, it's a technical judgment, but I think if there had been perhaps a more woke
Mm,
uh, lawyer adjudicating these cases, or a woke judge, I think it could have gone the other way. And that's why these laws are dangerous. I assume you've got them in New Zealand. They're pretty standard across the Western world.
coming.
They're subjective, and they're very, very dangerous laws. And yes, while I've had a
Mm,
win, the fact that a citizen can be dragged for 3 years through a legal process costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, be
mm,
subject to cross-examination by senior counsel in a grueling 3-day trial,
yeah.
for simply expressing a point of view about the appropriateness of drag queens reading to little children. I mean, this is just nuts, and this has got massive implications for freedom of speech. It shows we don't have freedom of speech
Mm.
in our country, because the process of this is the actual punishment, whether you win or lose.
I'm amazed that you were being judged for comments on your Facebook page. I mean, we would need full-time monitors and censors on
Yeah.
all our social media. That's incredible.
Yep, that was a large part of their case, because what
Wow.
I'd actually written, of course, I'm careful.
Mm,
I don't,
mm,
I mean, I wrote a very robust blog. I said they're dangerous role models to children,
yep.
and I stand by that. And they
Same.
were offended by that, and that was part of their complaint. But
Mm,
a big part of it was the third party comments, so things that I had no control of. Once the complaint was lodged 3 years ago, we actually employed a moderator to go through and clean up all those
mm,
comments. This is where I agree with the drag queens. Yeah, they're terrible comments, but
yeah.
look, I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. I didn't create the platform.
Mm.
He didn't, have a mechanism, for me to turn those off. And like you, Bob, you just don't have time to go through all that sort of stuff.
And as someone who led the no vote on the marriage referendum, or plebiscite, as you called it, in Australia, I've seen comments that have been written about you and still are written
Oh,
about you. So, you know,
that's the irony.
it's
Yes.
got to go both ways. Look, this is a really significant decision, and it's a
Mm,
great pushback.
mm, yeah.
I guess the media in Australia were all over this decision.
uh, look, you're a funny man. Look, they spun it as if it finally did make the media. It took a
Oh,
few
it did.
days.
Oh, okay,
It was hard.
because
Yeah,
I've done, you know, as you know, I spent the weekend with you in Australia at a
you did.
conference, and
Yeah.
I thought it was just one newspaper that reported. I couldn't find any others.
Look, it is hard to find,
Mm,
but it did make it into the Murdoch papers here in
mm,
Australia online late on Friday night. But it was fun instead of being the discussion over the egregious injustice to free
yeah,
speech.
yeah,
It was like Shelton got away with
yeah,
vilification. That was the way
yeah,
they spun the story. How did he get away with
mm,
this? That
yeah,
was the tenor of the article. But this needs to spark a big discussion about free speech,
mm,
because if we haven't got free speech, we don't have a democracy. And when you can get dragged through these processes compulsorily, it
mm.
has a chilling effect. This is designed to stifle and shut up debate.
Okay, just for us Kiwis, when you say Murdoch papers, you're talking about left-wing Sydney Morning Herald, and
No,
or is it?
sorry.
Oh, it's the
Well,
Australian.
they're all left wing these days, aren't they? But the
Yeah.
Murdoch paper. So that's the Australian newspaper, the Telegraph, the Courier Mail in Queensland.
Okay, so they
They're
touched it.
syndicate. Yeah. So then the Sydney Morning Herald, which is the Nine newspapers
Yeah.
over here, they're even more woke. So they haven't
Mm.
even reported it
No.
at
And
all.
the
And
ABC, you know, which is
yeah,
our television New Zealand, have they had, you know, feature? Because I bet
no,
if you had lost this and the drag queens had won, it would have been the
yeah,
lead story.
yeah. No, I think you're exactly right, Bob. Yeah, yeah. Look, we want to get a media discussion about free speech,
Mm,
but of course, this doesn't suit their narrative.
mm,
Someone getting off on this doesn't suit their narrative. So
yeah. Okay.
anyway, yep.
And but the thing is, you've set a very good precedent because, of course, you've got other Australians, a couple who we met over the
Mm,
weekend, and Kirrily Smith, you know, was concerned about a biological dude playing in a girls' soccer team,
yep,
and is currently before the court. So you know, this
yep.
isn't the last case, but you
No.
have set a really good precedent. I guess, well, there's two things to that. Firstly, what's the likelihood of an appeal?
Yeah. Well, firstly, on the precedent, this
Mm,
is a tribunal decision, so it
mhm,
doesn't have the same weight as a higher court,
no,
but it's not nothing either. And I think perhaps less so than a precedent, it's probably more of a deterrent to these activists if they make these vexatious complaints. They know they can lose, and that we've got good
mm,
legal people like John Steenhoff and the HRLA to
mm,
defend us.
mm,
Um, with regard to an appeal, I think they won't appeal, and I think it's for two reasons. One, because the member Jeremy Gordon went to a lot of trouble, and legal academics have told me it's a very solid decision. It's a
right.
hard read, but he's really made
Mm,
a strong case as to why I didn't cause vilification. The second
yeah.
reason is because I think public opinion is starting to turn a bit. And I think when
Oh,
you're
it is.
mixing drag
Yeah.
queens and children, people are
Yeah.
waking up to that. So for them to appeal for the right
Mm,
to
mm,
shut someone up who's warning
mm,
about the dangers of drag queens reading to children, I think that's a
mm,
bad look for them.
mm.
And I don't think they will appeal because of that.
And I have to ask you this one. You were funded by mums and dads. Who were they funded by?
Yeah, look, according to the annual report of the LGBTI Legal Service, which represented the drag queens, they had at least $400,000 of Queensland taxpayers' money that I could see from looking at their
Unbelievable.
annual reports over a number of years. After I blogged about that, they took their annual reports off their website. So, but they are taxpayer subsidised. We got no money, no taxpayer money at all. So this is again the taxpayer pays for the privilege of persecuting people who speak out against these people who are
That is,
protected species. It's crazy.
I start to say unbelievable, but I'm actually saying that is completely believable. That is just typical. No surprise at all. And I say that from experience because Family
Yeah,
First had to spend
yeah,
three
that's
quarters
right.
of a million against a government trying to
Yeah,
deregister us.
yeah, yeah.
Lyle, great victory. Congratulations. Really important precedent. Thank you for fighting. I know it's come at a huge cost, personally as well as, emotionally, but also financially as well, even though you've had financial support. So
Mm.
congratulations. Thanks for making that stand. Hopefully it's, as I always say, as you know, stiffens the spines of others to
Yeah.
make similar pushback. We need to for the sake of our kids. So yeah, thanks, Lyle. Really good to catch up and great outcome.
Appreciate it, Bob. Thanks for having me.